Hey, welcome back, listeners and viewers. We're here with another episode of the Power of Nine podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Eggert. Today's guest is a self-proclaimed business framework junkie that uses this mild obsession and the tools in his kit to help leaders through growing pains. Let's spend some time getting to know my buddy, Scott Gullickson. Scott, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Aaron. Appreciate you having me
man.
here. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm pumped to have you on the show. It's been a long time, and I've known you for a few years now, and it took too long. So I let's do this thing. And we tried to figure it out to do it in person, and you live in the middle of nowhere, which is a huge dedication that you make to come down to the cities when you do your good work. So to me, it's let's just do it via Zoom and move on with our lives, right?
That's right. Next, we'll meet for a beer next time I'm down in the city. So
yeah, all right, that sounds good. That's now you're talking my language. All right, man. So let's dive in. I like to start out a little bit around childhood and your upbringing that kind of shapes people to who they are. So give me a little bit of a snapshot of like what life was like growing up for you as a child.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town, Starbuck, Minnesota. Nope, there's not a Starbucks there, like everybody asks. So grew up in a small town on a farm. My dad farmed for many years and have two older brothers. And really kind of hard work was really instilled right out of the gates for us. It was not a opportunity for us just to sit around and be lazy and not work. I think my first job, I was sixth grade. I was picking up shingles on construction sites, and just from there, just really it was engraved that, all right, like you got to work. Things aren't just going to be handed to you in life. So that was a lot of it was good lessons learned early on for me. And with that being said, two older brothers definitely gotten beat up quite a bit from them. We're all good now, but they were both big dudes and I'm not. So I really took the brunt of that growing up. But otherwise, it was for me, I love sports. It was all about sports growing up. Every time I could get on a field or court, I was all about it. And that really helped me as I started getting older and older. I was not going to go to college. I wanted to do the construction route. And my girlfriend at the time, now wife, Alyssa, she was saying like, maybe you should consider going to college. I remember my aunt was a social worker and she said, Scott, you probably should go to college. And I was like, well, all right. I was like, I'm pretty decent at football. So I was like, well, maybe I can go play some football in college. So ended up out of high school, went to Concordia in Moorhead and played some football up there for a few years. My now wife went up there as well. So we got to go to Concordia and Moorhead together for a couple of years and moved down to the cities while she was wrapping up with dental school, and spent 3 years living in Minneapolis and was working in the cities at that time. We knew we wanted to get closer back home. And for us, that was, Glenwood. So just south of Alexandria in Minnesota. And from there, just kind of kept moving closer. We moved in St. Joe. She worked there for a handful of years. And then we had kids and thought it'd be nice to be moving closer to home yet. So we moved closer to home. And that's actually kind of what got me doing what I'm doing today. My wife is a dentist. She owns a practice, and she was buying in about 7 years ago. And once she bought in, it was a struggle for her. You learn absolutely nothing about business in dental school. I think she had one class on practice management, but other than that, nothing. So I saw the struggles that she was having, running a successful business without any tools is really a challenge as well. So there was nights she'd come home super stressed, like weeks on end, and just having to deal with lots of different issues that she wasn't dealing with beforehand as just a dentist. So I did not like seeing her go through all that struggle. And I knew that there's got to be a better way to be doing this. So I came across a book, Traction, on EOS, and really kind of fell in love with that and realized that, okay, she's not the only one struggling with this. So it started helping her out with her company, and then started helping some others out, and just started really growing from there. And for me, at the end of the day, I didn't care who I was helping, but I really wanted to be able to make a positive impact on the lives of entrepreneurs and help them get more of what they wanted from their companies. So that is the fast forward story for me from my beginning of time until current day.
That's all right. There's the podcast. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. No, just kidding. All right. So there's a lot to unpack in that and layers of that onion that I want to peel off. First thing, it always fascinates me, and I've said this before on other podcasts, is it always fascinates me about how many professionals, whether they be entrepreneurs or seasoned leaders, or even newer religious, that come from a farm family, right? And so that is a big part of the Midwest culture. I think we're only a couple generations away from where people, I mean, that was the only livelihood that they had. So, you obviously were brought up in a farm family. So as we look back on all that stuff, being the youngest of three boys, living on a farm, that instills, I think, like you alluded to, a lot of work ethic that goes into that. So, you were even going to just go into construction because that's what you knew growing up on a farm. It's like manual labor and you move on with it, right? So if you look back on all that stuff, so let's dig into the farm side. So talk to me a little bit about the size of the farm. What kind of farming did your family do, your dad do, and all that other stuff?
Yeah, so family farm, my dad had roughly 700 acres, so not a huge operation. But then we had hogs and we had cattle. That was the two main things we had. Well, hog market in the early 90s went south, so we sold those and then had I don't remember how many head of cattle, probably about 200 or so head of cattle at that time. And then dad got really sick with pneumonia a couple times. And second time I remember the ambulance came and I was 7 or 8 years old, probably around the age of my kids now, and freaking out. And he is basically in shock, and they've packed him with ice. And afterwards they told him, if you don't quit farming and this happens to you again, like, we can't guarantee you're going to make it. So it was a shift and a change for him that, okay, we're not doing this anymore. So he had to pivot and went into egg sales at that point in time. So already in the farming industry, why not stick into it after that many years later? So he was probably in his early 40s, and that was quite a big shift for the entire family at that point in time. But yeah, the farm life is, parents still live on the farm. Family, my uncle and cousin, like, they're farming the land today. So still very much so in the bloodlines, just not something that I've had to go too deep in. And I always joke with my wife, I said, your worst job by far would be a farmer's wife, because that is just not what she is. So, it's kind of a blessing in disguise that was not pursued with my family afterwards.
So for people that don't, our listeners and viewers that don't know about farm culture, that's actually pretty prevalent is pneumonia and lung related issues. What did they say was the contributing factor to that pneumonia a couple of times?
Yeah. And I don't recall for sure. Right. So don't quote me on this, but I think it was around the fact that, like, what they would call a farmer's lung, right? So much time spent in the silos, in grain bins, just breathing and all that during harvest. Like, people are probably wearing more masks today, right? Obviously they are, but on the farm than they were back then. So just 40 years of breathing it in, because he grew up farming, and it's all he had known as well.
Yeah.
So scary times, that's for sure.
Yeah, right. And I think I'm 46 right now. I can't even imagine, like, some of those scary, like, I have a pretty good health history and little things here and there, but and you're not too far behind me. And think about that. That has a huge impact on everything, right? But egg sales is a good gig, and I know a couple of guys around here that do egg sales, seed sales. Like, that's a nice living. So once you can transition, it's just basically comes down to relationship and having a good product. So I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, he did this sold seed at first, and then jumped over to Case IH, which is what we ran red, and then transitioned to over to John Deere from there. Yeah. Yeah. Then he transitioned to John Deere, which was it was kind of I thought it was a big step, but now you realize when you get older, I'm biased, but I think it's whatever label you want to slap on at the end of the day is whatever works best for each person. Right. There's a lot of similarities between them.
Yeah, they're all the same. We don't need to make this a farm podcast. Yeah. So as you're progressing through high school and stuff, so what, you played a multitude of sports, athletics was a huge part of you. So you didn't want to go to college. Were you a good student? You're a sharp guy. Like, I've spent time with you, and are you like me, where you're like, school was just not your jam, but you just got a shit ton of common sense, or did you have a good balance of, because I know you got common sense. You're my friend, and that's just how it works. But you got good common sense. But were you a good student?
I would say I was an okay student, and in high school, like, I bet, like, on the IQ range, right? Like, I'm nowhere near like where my wife. She's very smart, but I'm honestly, I believe I have very average intelligence. I had to work really hard at school. High school, I did kind of bare minimum. I was probably like a 3.34 GPA kid. Then went to college, and I had to pay for my own college. My parents helped out what they could, but I had to pay for my own, and went to a private school. So I knew that this is an investment I'm making. So I'm going to put a lot of time into it. So I was the guy at the library 3-4 nights a week until they shut it down at midnight. And that was just what I had to do. And I was fine with that. Like, I was like, well, again, I kind of came down to that farm life and still hard work. Well, you was provided an opportunity. I was paying for that opportunity, so I was going to take full advantage of it. So I worked my ass off, and throughout college in particular, when it came to my education, because again, I was an investment, and I was the first person in my family to go to college, to a 4-year school.
Yeah.
Mom didn't.
Wow.
I think maybe a semester, 2-year, dad 2-year, brothers 2 years, and that was it. So it was probably more of a pride thing too, where I really wanted to, give it my all and make sure that I, didn't slack at all. Yeah, so my GPA was better leaving college than it was high school. But for me, it really comes down to, there were certain topics that I loved learning about, and that was easy. And there was others where were not. Believe it or not, Latin, I have not gotten a lot of use out of that ever since, but had to study for it just like all the other ones that I did as well. I look at that as how that's transitioned. As once I was done with school, I was like, I've been learning so much. Just taking a little break. Then I started reading, taking the bus when I was living in the cities back and forth. So I read a lot of books there. Paused for several years once we had kids. But then about 7 years ago, I started getting back into reading and learning and educating, and just continuing to move forward and taking the courses and just continuing to better myself. So go back to your original question, is for me, it's really more of, I know I'm going to get out of it whatever I put into it. And I was blessed with with the academics that I have, but outside of that, I need to continue to push myself further on to be able to help to be able to help myself, help my family, help my kids, or help my clients, and set an example for my kids too.
You alluded that you had to make the decision and you got pushed a little bit to go to college. So I don't think you mentioned where you went. Where did you end up going to undergrad?
Concordia College in Moorhead. Go Cobbers! If there's anyone listening who's a Cobber fan.
Yeah, I actually know a few of them. So what made you? Was it proximity that you liked about that, or what about Concordia felt good for you when you made that decision?
I'd like to say that it was all my choice, but honestly, like, I kind of wanted to go to St. John's, play football there. But my girlfriend at the time, and now wife, so I made the right call, she was pretty dead set on, she was looking at Gustavus, or she was looking at Concordia. So I looked at, for college and football, at Gustavus, Concordia, and St. John's. And she said that that's where she really wanted to go. And she said they had a better dental program, which I don't know if that's true or not, but she's a dentist today. So, and she's doing what she loves and wants to do. But it really came down to, I wanted to, I wanted to play football, and I truthfully just wanted to be able to be with her as well. And glad it worked out.
When did you two start dating?
So long story, but no. So we dated in 7th grade once, and then she had the audacity to bring me the wrong colored Gatorade at a football game. So I broke up with her, and then she was, she screwed up. So then we started, we dated a couple times in 8th grade. And then since we were sophomores in high school, we've been together ever since. So yeah, 21 years now we've been together. So 14 years married.
You don't hear about that shit anymore, man. Like, that is like that's a little bit of a badge of honor, because I think just as generations have changed and stuff like that, I think even just social pressures, as everyone's telling you, like, hey, don't get married till you're 30 at least, and stuff like that. And so the people that do it, I got to believe the rate of divorce has got to be super high, right? Because people are so young. And so for you guys to grow up together and still have the maturity to be able to stay together and go through the ups and downs. And we all know what that's all about. Anybody who's got a significant other or has been in a relationship knows that. That's a huge deal, man. You both, I'm sure, are very proud of that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And like I said, one thing we do is we're very conscious about putting time and energy into our marriage versus just like, yes, we're full-time parents, yes, we're both working professionals, but same time, like, we make time, like we were sharing before this podcast, is we're going on vacation next week. Yeah. And we try every year to at least go somewhere together and just work on our marriage. We continue to date each other. I write her little love notes every morning.
We do the same thing,
right? Or most mornings. I'm not perfect, but I write her notes once in a while. You got some?
I got one too. Yeah, that's a good one. I keep that one
all those little things, because those are they add up. They matter big time. So not an angel. So I'm sure I've pissed her off many, many times. Or I know for a fact that I have. But the older we get, the more on the same page we get. And I know some people, it's the opposite, right?
Yeah, right.
What is the saying? women always hope the men will change and men always hope the women won't change, right? Is that when it comes down
Right.
to a marriage?
I've heard
So
that before. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think we're the type of people, my wife and I, we didn't even realize it was Valentine's Day on Wednesday, right? Like we just and we just didn't even acknowledge that it was a thing, because I think that we kind of live in that. I don't want to celebrate some our philosophy is some Hallmark holiday, right? And
Yeah.
but some people really love that, right? And I think that if you do treat your relationship like that, towards this sounds cliche, but Valentine's Day every day, I think that there is that's the thing that keeps gas on that fire.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
If our children didn't want to celebrate, like we probably would have not even acknowledged it as well.
Yeah.
But we always want to make it a good experience for our kids too, and show them what that's all about. It's by setting an example and actually going through. And it's like, we make the heart-shaped pizzas. Like we spend the whole night, we spend the whole day together. We buy the chocolates. We do, we do all those fun things just so that they can, make their conscious choice later on in life if that's something that they want to celebrate. So
100%. Yeah, I think it's a totally different ballgame when you got kids, right? Like I think you got to make sure and celebrate that stuff, and make sure that you set that example.
Yeah.
So I kind of get one of the things I always like to dive into a little bit is like the nature versus nurture thing, and what makes people decide that they want to go down the path that you did around being an entrepreneur and helping small businesses and stuff like that. Again, using the term cliche, but it does sound a little bit like it feels like it's a little bit 50-50, right? Like it feels like you were born with it a little bit, but then also you had some really good influences throughout your life. Obviously, your parents and the work ethic side of things, your dad having to make a major pivot into going into egg sales and stuff from being a farmer, like all of that, you're seeing that as a child, which is making you probably is having an effect on some of the decisions that you've made to go down the path that you have.
Yeah. So with that, I mean, for me, I strongly believe that it's a balance of both. It's not 100% nature, like biological makeup, like this is what I was meant to do these things. And it wasn't I grew up in a family that was serial entrepreneurs and that they had all these things. And I have got the aunts and uncles and cousins that all focused on businesses and helping them. So really it's a combination of both of them. On the nature side, we really hit on that, where I don't believe I'm the most intelligent man in the world. One thing that I always was very curious. So I was always the kid asking the questions like, well, what's that mean? Or, not trying to question the status quo, but at the same time, just trying to figure out, I was really curious. I wanted to figure out what was going on. So that led me to just asking more and more questions, and then being in front of some successful people and asking them questions, and just always being curious. And for me, that was really helpful to help guide to getting where I'm at today. My family, right? So my mom worked at a telephone company for 40 years as the office manager. Loved her job, like really, truly loved it. And just my entire career was there. My brother's more blue collar, more doing on the office admin side of things as well. So no entrepreneurial side whatsoever, which was fine. Then when you pivot over and look at my wife and her family, they have the strong nature side of things when it comes. I mentioned how she's quite intelligent, and her mom's a CPA, her dad's a family doctor and general surgeon, had multiple inventions, for for medical devices, and her brother, plastic surgeon, and she a dentist. So I was surrounded by a lot of that earlier on in life too, which helped push me a little bit as far as, hey, you can do more than just this. I remember I was probably 25 when my father-in-law approached me and said, hey, what do you want to do? Like when you grow up, basically. Yeah. I said, I'd like to own some dental practices with my wife and just kind of do that. And I would run them and she would do the clinical side. And he's like, I think you could do more. And I was like, I've never had anyone tell me. I think I thought that was pretty cool to do that. So he had a hernia patch that he had a patent on, and he was looking for me to, help grow the company and run the company. So just something he brought forward to me. And I started at that point thinking, okay, there's more opportunities that are out here for me. So again, I would say it's really a blend for me. The big part was once I saw my wife struggling, and I knew like, okay, I have some of these skills. Like we were looking at building up dental practices for a while. So I had a lot of that skill set, and I should say knowledge more than skill set. And what I ended up doing was just saying, all right, I know there's more people than just her that need help from this. So I'm going to start surrounding myself with more people. And a lot of choices that I made over the last 5 years have really helped shape me, I'd say more even than when I was from that 20 to 30 year range, because the decisions that were being made at that point in time. I didn't even think of what I wanted to be when I grow up. I was just growing up at that point in time.
Yeah.
So now I'm much more thoughtful in who I'm surrounding myself with. Like getting involved with Coalition9 last year, just one of the best decisions of my career that I've made, making sure that I'm surrounding myself with people that are better and not the people who are complaining. Because that's something I did about 7 years ago, as I started removing people from my life who were bringing me down. I wanted that positivity. And I found that more that I'm around that, the more it's shaping me to the person who I want to be versus the person who I was becoming without actually thinking about it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Well, I usually talk about this at the end, but I'm pumped that you're on our team, and your personality and your character is exactly what we're about. And your group loves you. And so to even have you as part of our team, as part of that portfolio crew that you've created, I think that's amazing. So I just want to make sure and state that. All right.
Yeah, no, I'm very fortunate.
Good, dude. Thanks. And I appreciate it. All right, let's take a quick break. Let's listen to a few of our community supporters. And then we're going to come right back with Scott. As a boutique Twin Cities-based investment banking firm, Madeira Partners works closely with family, founder, and management-owned businesses, bringing over 25 years of experience and hundreds of successful transactions to the table. It's in their DNA to educate owners on what potential exit opportunities look like, along with any industry or company-specific things to think about to make your business more attractive to potential buyers. Regardless if you want to sell tomorrow or in 10 years, the team at Madeira Partners would love to provide their expertise and guidance along the way. Take some time to explore their website at madeirapartners.com. Madeira Partners, your life's work deserves our best work.
Tell me if this sounds familiar. Your business is having challenges with adding revenue, or you're ready for quicker growth and scale. Your sales team lacks a coach or mentor to help guide and excel their production, and you're not quite sure who the best resource is for sourcing and replacing sales professionals on your team. When you're looking for a company that provides sales solutions that drive growth, look up Sales Homie. Sales Homie is the premier fractional CRO or VP sales agency, additionally offering sales recruiting and placement services, sales leadership coaching, and sales team training programs. Don't put your business at risk with low revenues and uninspired sales professionals. Learn more about Sales Homie by visiting their website at saleshomie.com. Sales Homie, sales solutions that drive growth.
The topic of talent is hot in organizations of any size, and I would argue none more than small to mid-sized businesses. That's why it's crucial to have a partner to help you navigate all the HR idiosyncrasies so you can focus on working on your business and not in it. Insperity is a full-service HR partner with a high-touch, high-tech platform helping owners work through challenges like employee retention, company culture, and benefits, just to name a few. Do yourself a favor and explore all they have to offer at Insperity.com. Insperity, HR that makes a difference.
Verseek Search and Consulting is thrilled to support Coalition9 for an exciting year ahead. Verseek is a Minnesota-based, high-performance recruiting firm that specializes in interim solutions, direct hire, and executive leadership search. Our team of experienced professionals and seasoned leaders across various areas of expertise and industries have been in your shoes. Your company's success hinges on the capacity of your people, and few areas of your business are more critical than your finance and accounting team. You need talent who can move the needle while winning the trust of leaders and stakeholders in your organization. Your people make it possible. Verseek can help connect you with the talented candidates within finance and accounting for consulting or direct hire needs, as well as within other industry areas in executive search, direct hire, and interim solutions. People are the ultimate business advantage. Find your people together with Verseek and make the best possible for your business. Learn more by visiting Verseek.com and by following Verseek on LinkedIn.
United Healthcare is dedicated to helping people live healthier lives and making the health system work better for everyone by simplifying the healthcare experience, meeting consumer health and wellness needs, and sustaining trusted relationships with care providers. UHC is continually focused on building a modern, high-performing health system via improved access, affordability, outcomes, and experiences. With a network of over 1.6 million physicians and healthcare professionals in over 6,000 hospitals, United Healthcare is dedicated to connecting employers and their employees to better health by offering quality benefits designed for affordability. For more information, visit United Healthcare at www.uhc.com. United Healthcare, helping people live healthier lives. All right, we're back with Scott Gullickson. Let's dive into some of the career stuff. So, what was your first gig? Let's call it what was your first real job?
Real job as in I had a college degree?
Yeah, like, hey, this is actually where I think I'm going to start my path, knowing that it never ends up that way. But like, what was your first, like, I'm being intentional about the first step in my career type of a job?
Yeah. So right out of school, I graduated Concordia, and my first job out of school, I graduated in 2009. So it was just an awful market. It was so hard to find any jobs. And I remember looking I had accepted a job offer, and the pay was literally like $13 an hour, just because like there was nothing that was out there, or nothing that I was qualified for, perhaps. But I did all the internships and, tried to build up the resume, et cetera. But so my first actual job, I worked at the, I was a regional loan officer for the Department of Veteran Affairs. So I worked for the VA, and kind of what I was doing was helping veterans who had fallen behind on their payments on their homes. So great cause, the work that I was doing. I can promise the government will never hire me back, because when I moved on to a job I actually wanted to do, I had an exit interview, and I told them in a very polite way how there was millions of dollars being wasted every year there. So needless to say, if I apply at the VA, I don't think Scott Gullickson's ever going to get an interview with them. But but that's really where it started. And that was hey, I needed a job. I was married, got married right out of college. Right. So I graduated in 2009 in May, and got married in July. So my joke was, my wife and I, starting off, were making negative $10,000 a year with her student loans and my income. But then I pivoted, started working for Genesis 10, which is that mid-sized consulting company. And I was doing contract work for them. So project manager, business analyst, quality assurance, just kind of different jobs like that. So I got to float around and take a look at a couple different companies, did some work at Wells Fargo Home Mortgage, Prime Therapeutics. Then I jumped over to Thrivent, and was at Thrivent, and I knew we were going to be moving, my wife and I, from Minneapolis to the St. Cloud area, because that's where her job was. And they offered me a full-time job, and I knew that to be a full-time employee, I'd have a better likelihood of being able to work remote than a contractor. So took that job, and ended up being really, I'd say, one of their first remote employees. And that's they're in the corporate office, right? I was doing project management operations work, and it just worked out really well. So I've been doing this hybrid remote thing since 2012. So really fortunate to be able to do that. But my work was all kind of operations focused as we were going through. I realized that's really what I enjoyed. That's what I loved. And spent time at Thrivent. It was a really great company to work for. I no longer had passion with what I was doing. I had started this side hustle to begin with doing, helping out other small businesses, doing coaching and implementation for them. And with that, I decided that, all right, I kind of went from full-time, told them what was going on. Then I went part-time, just cut back to 50%. And then in 21, I decided that, all right, it's time for me to go. I was finding no fulfillment in the work that I was doing anymore there. And I was so jacked every time I'd walk out of a session with a client. I was like, I need to do more of this. This brings me joy. This brings me fulfillment. And my bucket is just overflowing at the end of those days.
So then you did your duty as being a good employee, and you stuck it out, probably knowing you maybe even stuck it out too long because of your commitment to the organization and things. And I got to believe that it was a little painstaking to make that first full-fledged leap. What were some of the conversations that you and your wife were having when you were making that decision to make the full leap into being a business owner and being a guide?
Yes, she was so supportive of it. Like, if it was up to her, I would have probably done it a year or two earlier. I've been more risk adverse throughout my life, and she's more of, I'm the integrator of the family, and she's the visionary. Yeah. She's like, yeah, let's go do this, and we're gonna go buy this, and we're gonna do all these things. And I'm like, hey, back to reality. Like, we got to figure out like one step at a time. But I was pretty strategic in what I was doing with it. And so she was extremely supportive. I remember going and talking before we made the decision with my parents. I knew what I wanted to do, but I wanted to get their perspective too. And I asked my dad, I said, what are your thoughts? And he said, I remember we're sitting in the living room, and he said, there is nothing more fulfilling than being your own boss, not working for someone else. And I'd never even really looked at it that way, because for me, it wasn't about, oh, I want to be my own boss. It was more of all right, I want to be able to build something. Yeah, the flexibility is amazing on top of that. But once he told me that, I was like, okay, that always stuck with me. And because he was a farmer, right? The first 45 years of his life, he was his own boss, right? Then he had to pivot over and jump into being an employee. And that's a hard transition that I don't think a lot of people actually consider for people who jump out of the self-employed or entrepreneur lifestyles, is jumping into, now you're on someone else's schedule, someone else's calendar. But no, the support that I had was great. There was never a moment in time since I quit, and my mom is always like, oh, what'll happen, like, what happens if you fail? And I was like, well, thanks, Mom. First off, I don't plan on failing, and I'm not going to quit, so there won't be any failure. But she was always so worried, like, well, you had a good job before and XYZ. And I was like, but I was miserable. But I think that's just a difference between her generation growing up and our generation growing up. Is it's not just okay, I got a paycheck, I'm freaking miserable, but I got a nice paycheck. Well, cool. That doesn't mean a whole lot at the end of your life when you're like, man, I'm really glad I stayed in that place that didn't make me happy or fulfilled for a long time because I had a nice paycheck. So obviously way more stress comes with being a solopreneur and doing my own thing, but the rewards are so much higher. So it's definitely worth the payout.
So I feel like you kind of alluded to this earlier, but so you were kind of testing out your, you had some businesses you were helping, but I kind of feel like your wife's business was the first business that, and even what you were talking about when you were younger is like, running the business and kind of having the integrator perspective on certain things. Do you still play that role in your wife's business? And then do you still take some of the things that you are doing with other small business stuff like that? And then obviously people that do what you do, you apply them to multiple businesses, you learn new things. You're a framework junkie, so you're applying new frameworks and new things like that. So are you still doing that with your wife's business?
I'm not with hers anymore. So stepped in, helped out with a couple different areas. We realized quickly that the reason our marriage is as strong as it is because we have boundaries, and we found the line and then we crossed it. So, I mean, there was times where I'd have ideas and I'd wake up early and working, and then we did not talk about it anymore. It was strictly, and we just made this decision is, hey, if there's something business related, we're going to send an email to one another. So we were doing that route for a while. I was just emailing back and forth. And it came to the point where I was like, all right, this makes sense. Like, this is not worth, getting angry in our marriage over things like this. And I know there's some spouses who work together great, and that's fantastic. Just not what's needed for us. So the hardest part, and she'll probably listen to this eventually, and that's okay. But the hardest part is when she's talking about different problems that are going on at work. I know exactly like what she should be doing, like from my perspective, right? But I can't just tell her like, oh, you should do this. So I have to put my coaching hat and my husband hat on at the same time and try to find that balance of, okay, are you looking for support? Or are you looking for me to say, shit, I'm sorry, that sucks. Like, so always start with, I'm sorry, that sucks. But then from there, it's maybe become a better coach because I ask the question really strategically without, saying, well, here's what you should be doing. 5-10 years ago, Scott, younger in marriage and experience with business coaching, that's what I would do. Is like, oh, do you need to do this? And so I learned really quickly that is absolutely not what you should be doing as a spouse. So no, I have not been working with her company in a while. They've gotten to a much better place as well, and not strictly because of me, but just her getting more experience and rolling out some different pieces, and just really, honestly, just having more reps under the bar. 1 month into owning a business, you don't know what you don't know. 7 years in, you've gotten a lot of experience. You've had turnover, you've had growth, you've had, issues are popping up left and right, and you just do a good job of solving them. And she cares a lot about her people, and that's what makes her a good leader. If she didn't care about them, there's no tools out there in the world that are going to make a difference. Like you're going to hit a lid, and then you're never going to get beyond that. So caring about your people and having self-awareness are just the top two pieces.
What do you think? So, all right. So, you went out on your own on 2021. Obviously you worked with your wife for a little bit, and now you don't. And so, and then you're probably working with other businesses in the area and stuff like that. What do you think in the last few years since you've gone out and started this thing full time is what do you look back as like the most valuable lesson that you've learned in this short-term period?
First thing that jumps to mind for me is being authentic and being yourself. I had no clue out of the gates. Like I wasn't trying to be a complete imposter, although deep down, I think every everyone who starts off on their own is an imposter to begin with, and that's okay.
Yep.
Starting from experience or starting from scratch, wherever it is, that's okay. But I was just thinking that, hey, you need to be this professional guy. Like, you can't say shit. Like, you can't talk about personal things that are going on in life. You can't show vulnerability. Well, that was just me being stupid and young and naive at that point in time. So I think that's probably the number one piece that I look back and just say, okay, I wish I would have just truly been myself and not tried to follow everything so by the book and be so rigid, but more like, okay, let's be flexible. For me now, like, that's a huge part, is just meeting people with where they're sitting at today, right? Being very real with them and always, giving first. That's just a huge, huge piece that I wish I would have known 5 years ago, 7 years ago. I think I'd be at a very different part in my life and career already, if just had I known those things.
Yeah. If you look at your balance of time right now, living in, outside of Alexandria and the Glenwood area and stuff like that, how much time do you spend up there working with clients, and how much time do you spend in the Twin Cities working with clients?
Yeah, so my client load is much more heavily down in the metro area than it is around here. I've got some clients that I work with kind of up and down 94, if you will, from Fergus Falls to Alexandria to Glenwood. And then I've worked with companies in St. Cloud, and then down in the metro, down to Rochester. I got to be up on Bemidji a couple weeks ago as well. So that's really kind of where all the spread is. The companies, most of them I am in person with. I do some one-on-one coaching as well. So my buckets are kind of one-on-one coaching, like the business operating system framework side. And then I do some one-off strategic planning with like a lot of nonprofits and organizations that are looking for updating their 3-year roadmaps, 1-year plan, mission, vision, values, those things. But most of it is in person, and a good amount of travel is required for the work that I'm doing. But my wife and I, we've got young kids, well, they're still young, but we've got 9-year-old twins. And that's something that we've talked about for 4 years is, hey, that's my role in our marriage, is I get to be the one who brings them to school. I do drop off. Like, I'm bringing them to all their doctor's appointments, doing the activities, doing pickup. And I do really enjoy doing all those things. But we knew that for me to do this, it's not just going to be local. I'm going to have to do some travel. So we got on the same page out of the gates with what's acceptable, basically, for me to be gone and being on the road. So didn't want it to be constantly on the road, because that's not the life that I want to live. Then I'm not with my family at all, which, what's the point, if you're never going to be around? So we've talked about that balance. And of course, I love just working with good people, wherever they're located. My preference is that, they're not located up in northwestern Minnesota, worth a 7-hour drive away. It'd be nice if they're a little closer, but that's really kind of the spread that I'm doing right now. And I've got some virtual companies that I'm working with too, that are outside. And we've got clients, or I've got a company working with where people are in California or Florida or Chicago, Ohio. So they're kind of spread out. But thankfully for the virtual world that we live in, that's, acceptable a lot of times as well, to work with them that way.
100%. So, there's a lot of, I'm just going to say it, like, there's a lot of people that do what you do, right? So I think it comes down to authenticity, right? And I think I think personality and relationship drives a lot of the decision to work with a certain type of person. What would you say is one thing that you have that separates you, or what you've heard from your clients that separates you from the people that kind of do what you do?
Yeah, for the way that I've heard from others is, I'm coming in not with a, hey, here's your business in a box. Your business fits inside this box, so there's certain things that we have to do. My approach is a little more unique, if you will, where I mentioned before, is I want to meet people with where their needs are at. And I think one of the best ways for that is to make each offer a custom offer, versus hey, this is what's going to look like. We're going to do 3 days out of the gates. Then we're going to do quarterlies, and then we're going to do an annual, and then we're going to rinse and repeat and keep doing the quarterlies. If someone's needing more help, just from an accountability perspective, when I'm starting off with them, I'm not going to say, all right, we just finished this first 3 days. We'll see you in 90 days. I want them to be able to say, Scott, raise their hand and say, hey, we need help with this right now. So if I need to come in and run their weekly leadership team meetings, or their L10s, or whatever they're calling them, like, that's an offer that I have for them, so that they can be doing that. Because again, if that's their biggest pain point right now, I don't want to wait 90 days to find out that, oh shit, we said we were, doing our rocks and our goals every quarter, or every week. But the reality is we actually didn't make any progress on them. So to actually be able to push back a little bit more and say, okay, we can do this up front if you're wanting, more involvement. We can actually look at a monthly versus, every day, like a full day session. So that monthly subscription or retain or whatever you want to call it, I get to be a lot more involved in their business and help run their weekly meetings, do one-on-one coaching calls with the different leaders, come in more often and do a 2 or 3 hour, leadership training session on a new tool. Or if there's like, we just need someone's outside perspective on this. We've got these 5 different issues. Can you help us prioritize these and talk through them? Those are some things I absolutely love to do with companies. I don't know why I think it's a lot of fun because I can start, again, looking at things from a different perspective, digging into it, and then using that approach.
I do want to say, we haven't mentioned the name of your company. The name of your company is Pinnacle Coaching. It's not associated with what some people might know as like, there's an organization called Pinnacle. There's a few other things called Pinnacle. Mm-hmm. So you have named your own business that way. So there are frameworks that you tap into, you alluded to traction and EOS. I think that one especially in the Twin Cities is the most well-known. Are there other tools that, I mentioned, when I introduced you to your toolkit, what are some of the other ones that you have kind of looked at and that you really think have a good solid framework that you've adapted some of your practice in?
Yeah. So I'll give a little, I guess, history and background just to kind of level set. So once I mentioned that, read the book Traction, really did fall in love with that as a fantastic, great, straightforward operating system. Started using that, became an EOS implementer, did that for a couple of years. Then they changed their business model and just pivoted from a membership base to a franchise. And it just wasn't right for me. I wanted to be a little more flexible with what kind of packages I could offer and the tools that I could pull in. So I separated from that two to 3 years ago. I don't remember the exact date now. Separated from that a couple of years ago. And then really just, there's other books that I had read, other tools that I had come across, from the Ansoff growth matrix for watching YouTube videos long ago, to the flywheel concept, to just, and like these different pieces of the puzzle that I didn't know within the old model where I could fit those in. But what I found is that people don't necessarily, once you're working with them, care what you're calling it. It's more of a, like you said before, is how do I connect with this person? How well do they know my business? How well do they know my people? How much do they care? So that is a piece that I've really leaned in on. Yes, I've got a handful of different tools from different buckets that I can grab and incorporate, and knowing that not every company is going to need the same tools at the same pace. They're not all as mature as one another. Some of them are struggling with areas more than others. And just knowing that, okay, let's just find out where you're sitting at, and let's make sure that we find out what is right for you and your leadership team today to move you forward, versus okay, we've got these 3 done. Now this one's next, and this one's next. And again, there's probably 100 different frameworks, operating systems, whatever you want to call them. It still comes down to making sure that you've got the right fit with the people that you're working with. And my perspective is you're meeting them with where they're sitting at today.
Mm-hmm. What is your family meant to you, and how has that affected you and how you've decided to approach this?
Yeah. So again, family for me, extremely important. Been with my wife Alyssa now for 14 years, married. So, and we always knew that family was really important to us and that we wanted to start our family of our own. And I remember since we got married so young, we were 22, we got questioned left and right as far as, when are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids? It's like, she was still in dental school. It's like, we were 23, 24, no time soon. But once we decided that, all right, it's time to have kids, we were married for 5 years at that point. And yeah, we were super fortunate, super blessed. And we got pregnant right away. And my wife was so excited, and I was too, of course. And I was the planner. So it's like, all right, we've got daycare lined up, and like, this is what we're going to do. And this is what we're going to do. And then we went for our 20-week checkup. And at 20 weeks, they're like, all right, and this is your first ultrasound? I was like, yeah. Like, it's kind of a weird question, but yeah, first ultrasound. Like, all right, well, here's baby 1 and here's baby 2. And my wife, she just squeezed my hand, had her big eyes. And I was like, there's 2 kids in there. Are you kidding me? Like, I just fathomed 1 all of a sudden. And now we found out 2. So we didn't find out till 20 weeks. So my wife was on, and we were both super excited. Found out later that day, boy and girl. So even more excited, right? So just a true blessing. Then about 3 weeks later, we were doing just regular day in the summer, and going for a walk, and went to bed that night. And all of a sudden my wife's water broke at just 23 weeks. And, I was trying to tell her like, hey, I'm sure it's no big deal. driving to the ER in St. Cloud at the time. And we got there, and I remember once they were not moving too quickly, and I was like, oh, we've got twins, and my wife, and she's, water might have broke. And all of a sudden, just like, oh shit, like everyone, like they threw us in the room. Next thing you know, we're surrounded. And unfortunately, her water had broken. The labor process had begun. And we were just scared shitless because we were 3 weeks into just finding out that we had, that we were having twins. And now we don't know what the next 24 hours is going to hold with all of that. So by far the scariest time of my life. And just what ended up happening was my wife got the steroid shots that she needed. She was able to stay pregnant for a couple more days. And I remember one of the OBs came to us and said, there's something called interval births where twins actually who are in separate sacs like yours are, the mom can stay pregnant. And we're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, this is a real possibility. And this is something that's going to happen. This is great. And went to the OR that morning because all of a sudden, they couldn't hold her out anymore. And as she's being wheeled into the OR, my wife's contractions stopped. But baby had to be born, right? We had to play the scariest moment of our life when they told us that my son, Evan, they said, we can no longer monitor his heart rate. We can no longer monitor his heart rate. So if you're going to do this, you have to do it. And we can monitor your daughters and your wives, but not your sons. So we had to play God as 26, 27-year-olds to try to do that. And yeah, that was not very fun to have to do that experience. So thankfully, my wife gave birth to my son, Evan. And then her contractions, like I said, had stopped. And my daughter, Brielle, didn't follow, which was good. So what ended up happening was they took my son straight into the NICU. He was 23 weeks, 5 days. He weighed 1 pound, 7 ounces. He was 12 inches long, and brought him into the NICU. And they kept my wife pregnant. So I went with my son, and he was, again, just a miracle that he was alive. And we decided, or a couple days later, I ran into the OBGYN, and she had told me that, I told you about those interval births. We've never actually seen it before. And I was like, huh? She's like, we read about it in med school.
Yeah, we've heard about it.
Otherwise, we've never actually seen it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So here, I already knew it was a miracle even more. So, but fast forward a couple of days, my son had his stomach turned black. We had to rush down to the cities and have an emergency surgery. Thankfully, it was best case scenario. He just had a hole in his intestine. So otherwise, there was no chance of survival. And then 17 days after my son was born, my daughter, Brielle, was born. So I have twins who were born 17 days apart that were born in different hospitals, different cities, different doctors, different months, and all of the above. So we had a very interesting start as being parents because we spent the first 4 months in the NICU down in the cities. Right. So it was sleeping on couches and at the Ronald McDonald House, and that's what it was. But we got to go home, thankfully, before Thanksgiving of 2014 with them, and we went home with oxygen tanks and all the 14 medications between the two of them that we were doing daily. And so that was our entrance into parenthood. Wow. And it was not what we expected, to say the least, but we're very blessed that they're both here with us today. Period. The end. It could have been much more challenging. And of course it still has its challenges as any parenting does, but we've got plenty of different appointments that we're going to and different things that we're working through. But again, at the end of the day, there's no medical reason that my son should be alive and here today. And my daughter, born at 26 weeks, right? She was 1 pound, 13 ounces, and she looked like a beast because she was 14 inches long in comparison to, him, and they're both under 2 pounds. So, but that was a huge paradigm shift. And for me, and just life was very different afterwards, and different things mattered. And I was really put things into perspective really quickly.
Yeah, man. Wow. Jeez. Are they so it's 2 questions, and then we have to jump to 9 questions. Do you celebrate their birthdays 17 days apart?
Oh yeah. Oh, my wife makes a huge deal. Like she likes to buy gifts and throw parties already, but yeah, she makes a really big deal. And we absolutely, they each on their own day, we'll do a combined big family. All my family lives around us still, so we'll do a combined one, but yeah, they get their own birthdays. That's for sure.
Good. All right, cool. And then, so Evan being, a little bit older, but was, a lot smaller. Are they relatively same height, weight type stuff like that now, fast forward?
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, they're both very short. I'm all 5'8", right? Maybe 8.5 on a great day. My wife is shorter, 5'4", and them both being born so premature, spending 4 months in the NICU, so they're both short and they're always going to be shorter, right? Yeah. But so they're about the same height today. But it was awesome last year at the Christmas concert at school. They're front row material because of their height, but it used to be like the Gullickson twins than like everyone else. But now, they're not dipping down too bad. So I'll take that as a victory from a fellow short guy.
I love it. All right, let's take a quick break. Let's listen to a few more of our community supporters, and then we need to learn a little bit more about Scott, about things that he doesn't know. I'm about to ask him.
Are you a local business owner looking to take your enterprise to the next level? Look no further than Security Bank and Trust Company, your partner in growth. Our dedicated team of smart, experienced bankers understand the unique challenges and opportunities facing businesses like yours. With personalized financial solutions and expert advice, we're here to help you succeed every step of the way. From tailored business loans to cutting-edge digital banking services, Security Bank and Trust is committed to your success. Experience the difference a local bank can make. Visit us today at any of our convenient locations or online at security-banks.com. Security Bank and Trust, growing together.
Mason Jar Marketing helps businesses bridge the gap between marketing and sales so they can crush goals. They're a collaborative partner, one who translates strategic priorities into actionable, goal-aligned tactics. You can count on them to deliver creative expertise and flawless execution for all marketing channels, no hand-holding required. If you're ready for a partner who listens well, thinks big, acts fast, and drives results, schedule a complimentary marketing needs assessment at masonjarmarketing.com.
Kaisa Wealth Management treats each client like a member of the family. Acting as your personal CFO, we are fiercely devoted to your financial prosperity. At Kaisa, our wealth strategies are aligned with your core values, creating a wealth plan centered around the legacies you wish to create. This is our Kaisa commitment. Our wealth strategies are dynamic and tailor-made for your long-term goals because as a family investment firm, excellence in service is not just a promise, it's our baseline. Whether it's selling a business, planning succession, creating a legacy, navigating life's changes like death and divorce, supporting executives on the move, planning for your retirement, or just preserving your family wealth, we are here for you. Find out how we can help to simplify your wealth at kaisawealth.com.
Regardless if you're a startup just figuring things out or a medium-sized organization with a full team, having a legal partner by your side is crucial. Seiler Law is fiercely loyal to their clients and are passionate about removing headaches and roadblocks that can pop up during the growth of your business. Whether you need general outside counsel, are planning a business transaction, or even need someone to guide you through the estate planning process, the team at Seiler Law are the advocates for you. Visit seilerlaw.com to learn more. Seiler Law, where experience meets pragmatism. When you think of a typical CPA firm, you probably think of tax planning. Well, that just scratches the surface of what Boulay offers their clients. By providing smart, in-depth thinking from experts in accounting, audit, tax, and business consulting, they know what it takes to achieve financial success. Whether it's protecting your business, building your wealth, or securing your future, you can count on Boulay to go beyond addressing just financial matters and providing you with tailor-made, workable solutions. Learn about all they have to offer at bouleygroup.com. Boulay, helping you get there. Every year brings new challenges for Minnesota business leaders, and USI Insurance is here to take the pressure off of the employee benefits decision. Having a local presence with national resources, USI combines a client-centric culture with leading-edge technical resources so you can make an informed decision on your benefits investment. The USI team has been deeply committed to investing into our local communities and utilizes their expertise to provide solutions you can count on to protect your greatest asset, your employees. USI has been partnering with Twin Cities businesses for decades, and they would welcome the opportunity to do the same for you. Visit USI.com to learn how USI's approach to risk management and employee benefits delivers customized, actionable solutions with bottom-line impact. All right, we're back with Scott Gullickson. We're going to dive into 9 questions. Yeah, that was a great story. That was a great story about your kids. That was not expected, by the way. So way to sneak that one in on the end, and you got me a little choked up there. I was able to hold it back a little bit. I think I even saw you get a little, I don't doubt that you get a little emotional when you talk about that stuff. So thank you so much for sharing that, and it gives you continue to round out this perspective on who you are and what your why is. Okay, number 1. Oh wait, hey, let me ask you. Can you please confirm to me that you have no idea what I'm about to ask you?
I can confirm that, and I'm a little afraid. So,
Awesome.
but let's go. All right.
All right, let's do it. What is one guilty pleasure that you indulge in?
Ice cream.
I love ice cream. What's your favorite?
Every night.
Me too.
Kemp's frozen yogurt twisted dough, I think it's called. I've competed in bodybuilding in the past, but that was always my pleasure. Guilty pleasure is every night I was going to have a little bit of ice cream. Now that I'm not competing anymore, it's not a little, it's a lot. But yeah, 100%. That's my guilty pleasure.
Yeah. Me too. I love it so much. If you could give a TED Talk on anything except something related to your career, what would it be?
I would give a TED Talk on the topic I just hit on, truthfully. Just the birth of my kids and how that shapes a person, and, how everything's relative, and just how life gives you different perspectives at different points, at different times of your life.
Yep. That's what I was thinking you're going to say. Just wanted to
I'd never thought about a TED Talk before. So
yeah. What is one thing that immediately brightens your day?
Mine has to be seeing my family. It's definitely my wife and my kids. Each day that I get them is a blessing, and I'm a gratitude guy, and that's every morning, right? That's what I say when I wake up, is say what I'm grateful for, and they're 1, 2, and 3. What's first is it's waking up, right, each day, but then after that, it's having my wife and my kids in my life.
Yeah, sweet. Do you remember the first album that you ever purchased or that you ever owned?
Unfortunately, I do. Do I have to share it?
Yo, hell yes, brother. Come on.
All right. I don't know which one came first, but it was, I think I was 6th grade. We got Faith Hill and Shania Twain. And I can picture, I don't remember what the albums were. There were CDs. I don't remember what the CDs were called, but I can picture the cover of both of them. And, as a 6th grade pre-pubescent boy singing, sounding just like them, I thought I was going places, but it turns out that no, I was just going to be embarrassing myself 25, 30 years later on a podcast. So
I got this vision in my head of little Scott Gullickson, 6th grade Scott Gullickson singing "Man, I Feel Like a Woman" with Shania Twain on her first album, because that was a banger. That hit right there.
Yep. So thank you for those nightmares that are about to come. But yeah.
Yep. Enjoy that. Name one thing on your bucket list.
To have a beer in every state. Right back here. Yep. So it's on my bucket list is to have a beer in every state. So my wife bought me this nice little map so I can be checking them off. So I've got like 23 states down. So I'm not halfway there, but it's I love to travel, and I like beer. So those two combinations, we combine them. Even at an airport, if I've done that several times where I got 45 minutes, I'm grabbing a beer and I'm checking it off the state. So
I love it. Good. Sweet. What is one quality in a person that impresses you?
When people have the ability to read someone, like not like a official profiler, but when someone like right away when they can meet someone and just know a couple questions to ask and just boom, know so much about them. That's something you're really good at too. But that's a skill that I would love to be able to continue to develop and learn. I know it's getting in front of more people and just like you're curious. You give a shit about them and you want to learn more about them. So I care about people. I want to learn more, but I think it's so impressive when people are able to do that, call it profiling, if you will.
Yeah. Curiosity drives all that, right? You got that in you. It's just, you need more at bats, I suppose, probably. Right?
Yeah. More years eventually.
What was your favorite cartoon or TV show as a kid?
The Simpsons. Definitely. I remember my family farm life, like we didn't get air conditioning until I was like in 9th or 10th grade. So we didn't have cable, but I was probably in 5th grade, my parents splurged and bought the antenna, like the big bunny, like the antennas that go on top of the roof. And then all of a sudden we went from like 3 channels to like 30. And I thought like the Gullicksons have made it. This is pretty awesome. But that's when I was introduced to the Simpsons and Simpsons and Family Guy. Like that's what I watched for many, many years. And I'm pretty sure it's still on. I don't watch it anymore, but
you can catch reruns if nothing else. So,
good.
Sure. Yeah. And I think it's on YouTube or whatever, like, technology, you can watch all that stuff. It's been around forever too. Okay. So, you got a family with two business owners in the family. You got kids running around. You got to make a decision. Would you rather have a full-time cook or a full-time cleaning person?
Cleaning person for sure. Because I could walk you through my house right now, and that's what I'm doing after this. And it's a struggle. I really do enjoy cooking. I do not enjoy cleaning. And with kids that are, just 9 years old, like I told them this morning, like, hey guys, like we are cleaning up this house today and we're doing this. My son's response is, well, you guys are supposed to clean it. And I was like, nope, not happening, buddy.
We got to reprogram that brain, kid.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, last one. You've survived so far, and so I'm gonna drive it home here with this last one. If you could have dinner with two people, one dead and one alive, who would those people be?
All right, the person who's dead, be my grandma. My grandma passed away just last December, and she was 95 when she passed. Still sharp. Body just gave out at the end. And yesterday I was on my drive home from the cities from a client session, and that I would just randomly call her. And what I miss most is just the years of wisdom that came with it. And she would always tell me that like the good Lord's not going to give you more than you can handle. And she spoke a lot about God and about Christianity, and just having her, like I felt so much smarter after I feel wiser after every time I was done talking with her. So yeah, if I could jump on the phone call with Grandma Emily, that's what I would do for sure. So, all right, now person who's alive, one phone call with anyone alive.
No, one dinner. So
dinner. Sorry, dinner.
Yep.
Not that it makes a huge difference, but okay. Dinner. If I can have dinner, one person alive. He stumps me on the very last one here.
And you got to remember too, it's you and your grandma. So like, who would you think that would be the nice third complement to that interesting conversation?
Oh, we're all together. Oh, I thought we were separate. Okay.
Oh yeah, come on.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, so who I would pick for supper, meal, who's alive today? Individual by the name of Alex Hermosi. And I think it'd be a really interesting three-way dinner with my grandma there as well. But I'm not going to change it. So I'm familiar with Alex Hermosi at all. So he's got a company called acquisition.com. They are a holding company for a portfolio of businesses they buy up. But I started listening to his content a couple of years ago. He's got a podcast called The Game. So The Game. Mm-hmm. And he does such a fantastic job of taking these complex thoughts for business and breaking them down in easy frameworks to use. So he's got a couple of different books that are out, $100 million offers, $100 million leads. And he's all about giving away as much information and knowledge as possible, because he wants everyone to grow their companies to where it'd be a big enough company that he could potentially build up, that he could team up with in the future. So Alex Hermosi would be the one individual. And if you look him up, like you'd be like, what, this long hair, like big beard, like jacked dude. So you'd be like, oh, this guy's like not legit. Just listen to him talk for a little bit. It's like a business advisor plus someone who's very philosophical, and you combine them together, and then that's what he is. So
sweet. That'd be a cool dinner with you and your grandma and Alex.
And Alex, yes.
Sweet. Fascinating. All right. So how can people learn more about you? Where can they find you on the socials? How can they get a hold of you? All that good stuff.
Yeah. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I don't really do the Facebook or Instagram at all, but I'm active on LinkedIn. So Scott Gullickson. Website is scottgullickson.com. That was super cheap. Nobody else wanted it. So I got that for a steal of a deal. But yeah, and then between those two, that's how you can go ahead and reach out to me. I've got on my website, I've got time for you can book a Calendly invite with me if you want to grab a little bit of time, and love to always learn more. One of my favorite things is just meeting other good people, right? Whether they're business owners or not. But I found so much value in Coalition 9 and being able to get connected with so many great people. And I bet I've had over 60 plus Zoom calls and conversations with just fantastic people, and have learned a lot. And I've got to connect them with other people and help, just helping out people in different ways. So so scottgullickson.com, and then just on LinkedIn.
Well, like I said earlier, I'm thrilled to have you on our team, and you've got a lot of other things in your portfolio career. I'm just proud to have you, have us be one of them. We're a better team with you on it. That was on full display a couple of weeks ago during our team summit, and the thoughtful questions that you ask and the way you approach things, and we're a better community with you in it, dude. So you're a valued part of this, and I'm pumped to have you on the podcast finally, man. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you for having me. Sorry we weren't in person, but we'll do that soon, I promise. Thanks again for having me, Aaron.
Yeah, thanks, brother. On behalf of Scott, this has been the Power of 9 podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Eggert, and I want to thank you for the privilege of your time.